Smarterfan.
Hey everybody, welcome to another segment of Smarterfan podcast, where we bring you behind the veil of sports, business, and life. I'm Joe, and this is Barry. What's going on, Barry?
Joe, there's a lot going on. Hey, we were together this weekend at Malcolm Koonce, LA Raiders defensive ends youth camp. What a event!
Yes.
My goodness! I mean, just the people that were there, the kids, the families we got to interview, just the whole experience, seeing the kids compete from 7 to 17. What an amazing experience.
Yes, it was. They did a hell of a job as usual. The family was involved, and the kids loved it.
Mm-hmm. Quite a network. People from Bronx, upstate, everywhere. And it's only the third year.
Yeah.
It's only the third year. And so it's been a great. So next week's show, more than likely, will be about that. And we're talking to the family because they're doing great stuff in the community. Oh, my goodness. They underwrite everything. They take care of the kids. Kids was walking out of here with new cleats. It was a great time. Every kid was smiling. They had ice cream. They had hot dogs and hamburgers. What a great camp.
Yeah.
So we're going to do everything we can to get the word out and let parents know, hey, you need to be at this camp. If your kid loves football and sports, and where else are they going to get to meet an NFL player, and touch him and take pictures and get autographs? You should have seen the kids.
Oh, yeah. They were just ecstatic,
Ecstatic.
And it builds social skills for the kids.
Yep.
And a sense of community and competitiveness.
Absolutely. So it's the best 4 hours you could spend.
Yeah. Nothing but positivity. Nothing but. So what you got? Yesterday, for Father's Day, my son took me to the Yankee game.
I don't know if that's good or bad, but I'm glad you had I'm glad he thought about you.
Oh, yeah. The weather was beautiful down there. They weren't. They did horrible as usual, but I enjoyed the game and I enjoyed being with my son.
There you go.
And that was the main thing, There
you go. Are they still selling $20 hot dogs?
Close to it.
Yeah, I know. So I'm glad you had a great time.
Yeah, I did, and that's the main thing, So, and my son, he had a great time, and it's we don't get to spend as much time together as we used to now that he's a married man and a father to be. So
yeah. Oh, congratulations! That's what's up.
Yeah.
That's what's up. That's wonderful. How the time passes, right?
Oh, tell me about it, man.
How the time passes.
So I understand we have guests.
Wow. Well, yeah, we have we have our in-house mental health therapist, as I call him, Dr. Royce, from the University of Louisville, working with student athletes, pro athletes, retired athletes. And so we felt that at Smarterfan, that's part of our name, is really to talk about what's going on in mental health, bringing on the professionals talking about mental health, because it's not going away. As Roger Goodell said last season, that every NFL team will have mental health specialists on staff. So they're realizing these athletes need support on and off the field, and the support staff, the coaches, the other people, everybody. It's a very pressure cooker environment and very challenging, as we lost Alton Smith, former 49er, at 36 years old.
Yeah.
And so Royce is positioning himself in a great way to bring this information to us and bring his network of mental health professionals. And so tonight we have Dr. Royce as I call him, and Dr. Peters from University of Louisville. So those are our special guests. There he is. There's one. There's two. Good
All
morning.
right.
Good evening, gentlemen. How are you?
Doing great.
Doing great. Well, if you don't mind, Royce, I'm gonna let you introduce Dr. Peters and that relationship, and take us
Yeah,
down.
yeah. I'm fortunate enough to be able to work with a team of folks, and so we have 5 licensed therapists, but we also have a sports psychiatrist and Dr. Peters here, which again I've been working with him almost 4 years now with Dr. Peters, and he is just an amazing asset to the program and to our student athletes. We collaborate on a lot of things when it comes to treatment planning and things like that, but that's just on that side. But as a person, he's one of the coolest guys that I know. One of the coolest guys I know. And so without further ado, Dr. Chris Peters, welcome and thank you for being on the show. If you would just tell us a little bit about yourself, your journey, and how you got to this place where you're at right now at U of L.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I don't know if I can live up to the hype now that you put out there, but I'll do my best. So to your point, I'm a psychiatrist, which means I went to medical school and then did a residency in general psychiatry. And then I did a fellowship in what they call child and adolescent psychiatry. So that's when I finished my training in 1999, that's what I was set out to do. And then I had an opportunity come my way in 2004 when somebody asked me if I knew anybody in the community doing sports psychiatry. And I said, what is that? So because of my own love of athletics growing up and my own experiences, I explored that, leaned into it. And that's when I got connected with the University of Louisville athletic department. And it's been something I've been connected to and had the privilege really of working with wonderful people like Royce and to his point, his teammates on the mental health and performance team. And it's opened up a lot of doors with all sorts of youth athletic events and things. So Joe and Barry, to have you guys open the door globally to the topic of mental health in sports, I couldn't be more humbled that you include me on it. And it's so timely to have such a discussion, I believe.
Well, it moves both ways, Doc. And Royce and I go back away, and I've been pushing Royce and pushing Royce. And pushing Royce. I say because it's tough. It's tough getting those advanced degrees. But we're gonna jump right in. One of the things I wanted to say, kind of throw out to both of you is, what changes have you seen? Let's just use the last 5 years to where we are now in the consciousness of mental health in the sports arena, because you're like front and center. Have you seen it go this way? Have you seen it plateau? What are you seeing currently? How's it been? And either one of you, both of you, can answer it if you'd like.
Dr. Peters.
Yeah, let me. I'll go back a little further than the 5 year you gave me.
Okay.
Because in 2004, when I started with University of Louisville, it was me, and there was a student sports psychologist and the counseling center on campus. That was the team that covered and tried to provide additional support to the athletes. And we did, best we could. And we were also what they call siloed. So when an athlete needed mental health care, that was over there, right? The athlete went over there and behind the curtain, and we did the best we could behind the curtain, and then we sent them back to the main stage, so to speak. So it was very separate, and we thought at the time that helped with privacy and those kind of things. But what we didn't realize that it sort of reinforced this whole stigma, and you don't talk about mental health, right? So we've evolved and we've learned, and fast forward now to Royce's point, there's 5 therapists, myself, we have a whole 4 other mental performance coaches, right? So there's this collective group, no longer behind the curtain, out in the open, engaging every team, every coach. And so the stigma is much less. And guys, think about like when you see Simone Biles and Michael Phelps and the NFL guys and Kevin Love in the NBA, all of them sharing their stories, how powerful that has become, that young people start to think, well, maybe I'm no different than them. If I'm having a mental health struggle, I can get help. And so it's come a long way, and it's very exciting to be part of it now.
Absolutely, Joe.
Okay, Dr. Peters,
Yes,
what are the early warning signs that the pressure of managing NIL endorsements is transitioning from an entrepreneurial opportunity into a source of chronic anxiety or burnout?
Oh man. So this is evolving, right? In 5 years, I may have a better answer because this is happening in front of us. It is,
Right.
and Royce and I have already had conversation, is what is this going to do to that young person who's now exploring options, but feels this extra weight of their own ecosystem putting pressure, of their own sort of dreams and desires putting pressure. And then just the inherent challenges of what money does to decisions that we all make, and how that will enhance stress over time. I think the answer to your question regarding the stress load, so we know that when people transition to the next phase of their development, right, there's normal stress of that transition. When, high schoolers go to college go to professional, each transition carries with it its own added stress of demands for performance. And now what we've done is we've taken the professional stress load, essentially, and we've moved it all the way down to high school. So the adult brain that's handling the old professional jump, we're now putting on the still developing brain, right? That may not have the capability to sort of compartmentalize and manage and think future orientation in a way that's not in their moment, right? So are they really capable of thinking long term, or is it all about the here and now and get what I can get? And it sort of creates a risk of maybe short-sighted decision making in some ways.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow.
So I think it's yet to be determined about the total impact on the developing athlete, because we're on the front end of this really, from my point, kind of concerning monetary influence on the athlete's development.
Yeah, great question.
Yeah.
I guess the number 2 is, you made mention of something that this is a big mountain to climb, and it's only getting bigger. So it's almost like you have to approach this as a team situation, because I've never heard of a sports psychiatrist. I've heard about sports psychologists because in one point in my life, I wanted to be one. But I've never heard. So when Royce brought that up, I said, "Wow, that's different, right?" Because there's medication that a psychiatrist can administer, and so forth and so on. And it's just it's a deep layer. So you're starting to deal with the dynamic where, unfortunately, suicide is a big part of, that impacts. I remember my playing days in college. I had a teammate who took his life because of the pressure, and he grew up, big time high school athlete. His father was a coach at a big program in Massachusetts, and this is kind of the other side that people don't realize. But when you move from one level to another, it doesn't always compute, right? So you may have been dominated in that pool, but he struggled. He was undersized, considered, right? And it was a really tough because he was a superstar where he was. And I guess a combination of being young and not living up to what he was accustomed to doing, that he took his own life.
Wow.
Yeah, took his own life. And I could, as I'm talking about, I remember where I was standing in the kitchen, talking to his dad, and it's just like, and his dad was, broken, because he's probably blaming himself in some way. What pressure did I put on him? Did he feel he had to, and these are the things that, athletes go through that people don't realize. You're in one place and you may be dominant, but it may not necessarily carry over to the first place, the next place. And sometimes what happens is you may have not been that guy in high school and get an opportunity in college and become the guy. Mm-hmm. And that dynamic, right? Yep. So it's a real mental health piece, and then, I've had friends say to me, I play with guys and, they say, "Babe, I got this guy at Ohio State. There's no reason that he shouldn't be in the pros, but mentally couldn't handle it, or ran away from the pressure, the lights, the cameras, the demands, on and off the field." Guys saying, "I can't go home because when I go home, everybody's got their hand out."
Yeah.
I always feel bad. For instance, I'll give you an example, and I'll be quiet. Is, hey, you just signed an extension for $60 million a year. You go home and people say, can I hold, can I hold a few dollars? It's like people just assume, don't really realize it ain't 60 a year. It's 30 a year off of taxes. Then I got a job tax. Then I got my agent and other taxes. So maybe out of that 60, I got 20. And then I got to take care of my family, my mother. You know what I'm saying? And people just assume that the number they see is actually the number. And Cam Newton talks about that a lot, as he should, of that dynamic. And one or two investments go bad, a divorce, a couple children, it is probably the fastest way to go broke. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's outside of injury, new coaching. You're not the flavor of the month. You're older, right? You still can get it done, but you're older. So now you're competing with the dynamic of, do we pay Royce this money when, in the draft, maybe we can get a couple of these young kids to kind of hold it down. Maybe we don't need Micah Parsons. Maybe we can find you see how? And then you as an athlete are going, did I lose a step? Am I what I was? Does that make any sense to you specialists?
Yeah, absolutely. One question I was going to pose to Dr. Peters, because sometimes I hear that this generation is less resilient than maybe my generation and the one before me. And in my mind and in my head, I think, are they less resilient? Or has this always been a challenge and a problem that we just swept under the rug? And so my question to you, Dr. Peters, like, what's your feeling, your take on it when you have maybe some coaches who adopt a certain mindset thinking that these kids need to be more resilient?
Yeah, it's I think we have to think about what we mean when we talk about resilience, right? So one's ability through development to handle adversity when things aren't going well and manage through those stressors. And are today's youth less able to handle the day-to-day stress load? Part of me wants to say this is a whole different America and a whole different situation. Once you added things to social media the last several decades, we've added a pandemic. So when you think about all the additional stressors, like the background noise that we carry, that we have to manage day in and day out, it likely leaves less energy towards just the goal focused stressors, right? So I think it's a pretty complex question. So I don't see people as any more or less resilient. I think the challenges have always been the same, but the context of those challenges has changed. And I think in my own mind, if I went up in today's world, I would be struggling more than I did when I was growing up in the 80s, with all the additional stressors that these youth have to sort of face. So that's something I take when I'm sitting in the office talking to the young people. That's kind of the thinking pattern I have. To Barry's point earlier about when somebody goes from a being sort of the big fish in the pond, then moves into the next phase of their development, maybe from high school to college or college, and now you're just hanging on, or maybe you're not at the level you had anticipated, and that's quite a shock to one's self-perception. And then that leads us to talk about this whole idea about an athlete identity, part of your professional path, your identity. And if folks don't nurture other parts of themselves or think that they're more than just the unidimensional identity, and that identity fractures, injury, not playing well, then you're in a real crisis. And that unfortunately can lead some people into depression or anxiety related problems.
Absolutely. No, thank you, Doc. That's insightful.
Yeah,
it's your ball, Royce.
No. And let's continue on with the whole identity piece, because I notice, and we talked about this, how a lot of athletes will silo themselves into just this one-dimensional identity without fostering and nurturing these other identities. What do you find, that it's helpful and the most challenging when it comes to having an athlete foster and create, or to maybe go down a path of discovery with these other identities, other than just being an athlete?
One of the great questions you ask people is like, well, what if you weren't able to play anymore, what would you do? Right? Simple question. And invariably, they just kind of stare like, I have no idea what I would do. This is all I've done. And so that's a great sort of opening. Well, gosh, wouldn't it be nice if you explored even a little bit this sort of idea that, okay, when you play your last game and you take the uniform off that last time, what could that look like for you? What interests do you have that might be outside of sports? What could you still do with sports, even though you might have to move to a different role in sports? And so I think asking the question early, right? Because it could, I mean, Barry, it could end at any point in time.
Any point in time.
Right. I saw a high school athlete who is no longer being told they can play football because of their 5th concussion, and it's advised against. And so he's got to wrap his head around this whole other idea that he wasn't prepared to do.
Yeah, that was gonna be one of my questions about How can athletes develop a mental toolkit to cope with the identity-crushing impact of a season-ending injury or a sudden loss of playing time?
Mm.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah. And Joe, that is exactly right. That if you have an athlete that now has everything stopped, right? that what they were doing yesterday is not happening today or forward, and whether they just lose the season or it's career ending. That is a sort of a red flag moment for folks like Royce and the team we have, because we understand that is a crisis situation. And so we want to make sure we're engaging that person, supporting them, making sure they have their own support system, be it their family, their church, however who they lean on when they're having difficulties. And that will bring the identity to the surface, right? That question that we ask them, it's just now right in their face. Okay, now what do I do? And if they're able to recover and rehab, then that's a whole process. And how do you keep somebody engaged enough so they still feel part of the team, right? While they're rehabbing, while they're more on the sideline in the training room, but still engaged enough, keeping their mind creative enough with the team while they go through that process? Or are they at a point where they really have to go a different direction because they won't be able to play again?
Yeah. Well, there was another aspect I was thinking about where an athlete is coming off of an injury, say like an ACL injury, and now he's not sure how he can do the cuts on that knee, and that affects him in a certain way.
Oh, you're hitting all the points, man. This is great. Right. So the anxiety one has when they're coming back, right? What if I'm not in the same player? What if I re-injure? What's that tweak? What does that mean? Does that mean it's not healing?
Right.
All the doubting, and you're coming back, and you have to kind of work through, right? It's that exposure and working through and managing that anxiety. And that's where we want to help that return to play idea with supporting the athlete and normalizing. That's true. Anybody that's coming back from a health issue, how am I going to come back? What am I going to be like? Can I get back to where I was? All those things, right? And that's normative, and you're anxious and you're worried. And if it's your profession, that just enhances all that, right?
Exactly.
So that's another great time frame to wrap the supports around an athlete coming back from injury.
Yeah. And to what you're saying, Dr. Peters, it's educating them on how the brain and the body operates. Because when you're doing that tweaking, that cut, your brain is telling you, oh, this could be something that could lead to that next injury.
Right.
Because the brain is wired to protect you from the injury, the hurt. And so it's educating them to understand that just because your brain is telling you that or signaling that doesn't mean that it's accurate. That doesn't mean that it's correct.
That's huge, Royce.
Right. And so, and this is some of the trauma that comes from the injury, where we help guide them to that stage, so where now they're recovered, but in a place where now, even though they may feel something, they're able to push through to the other side of it. So, I just have one more question, Dr. Peters.
That's right.
And you talked about how, you've been doing this since 2004, and it was just you. And so, now that we at U of L have this team of specialists for our athletes, right? But other schools, other teams, they don't have it, right? So my question is, how important is it for other schools and other teams to now get a team or create a program, create a plan for their athletes?
Yeah, so that's exactly right. And I think you start with what you got and start where you're at. We started 22 years ago at U of L, and we were able to build it. So it's a slow build. I work with a college at Bellarmine University, smaller school here in Louisville, and they have one therapist, myself, and the counseling center. I work with Hanover College. It's a Division III school. They have the counseling center and me.
Mhm.
So you start where you're at, and you start kind of working it up, building awareness, educating,
Mhm.
and hopefully the resources come over time. But no matter if it's just one or many, you can still help people and do the best you can with the resources you have in your school or your organization.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is so exciting. This is so exciting. It's bringing back a lot of memories. I mean, even what you said, Joe, about a toolkit. Imagine if you professionals created a toolkit that wherever a young person is, male, female, Division I, II, or III, imagine if they were able to go online and go through an actual toolkit, right? Because the athlete's one part of it. Then there's the family of understanding the dynamics of, I'm watching my son, I'm watching my daughter on TV, right? But they just, my son's 8, they say, my son's 8 years old and Sprite wants to do an NIL deal. Right? My daughter's a great soccer player. She's 14 years old and they're talking about giving her $100,000. Well, my son just turned 14. He could get drafted in Major League Baseball. And I'm sitting in front of a sponsor with $1 million check on the table. This is what people are living with. And so there was a young man, I think he's a sophomore. He already got signed to Duke, paid for. His NIL deal is $1 million plus. Literally, the conversation was at 14 years old, he's made more money than both his parents. How do you parent that child? Who becomes the parent and who becomes the child? Those dynamics, so this is such a great conversation because this is really happening in real time. It's really happening in real time. So I'm so glad we're taking the bull by the horns and putting it out there and having these conversations because many parents are struggling. They're struggling, and kids are struggling and families are struggling and of this new environment all the way up the food chain. So, Joe, anything else? This is so exciting, Therapist Royce. I can't wait to see who else you bring on. Dr. Peters, thank you for your time. This was awesome.
Yeah.
We can't wait to have you back.
You.
I know you're busy because I know you've got a lot more to give and share with us and help these people in the community. And Joe, you have any further questions?
No, they answered all of my questions to the fullest.
Anything else, Royce? Because this is your feature.
No. I think we're good, man. Okay. We could go on and on, but I know time's sake,
No, it's this will have to be continued.
Absolutely. So what we always say, Joe, on Smarterfan podcast is
stay in the game.
Stay in the game. Therapist Royce, Dr. Peters, thank you so much. And we look forward to our next session, hopefully next month.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
Have a great day.
Very educational.
Very.
Smarterfan.